All right, so we are ready to dive into leadership and personal growth today.
Yeah, we've got a whole stack of books
A
here.
mountain of them, from big names like Dale Carnegie.
Oh, yeah, John Maxwell, Tom Peters.
And some really fascinating research on things like motivation.
Oh, yeah, and innovation?
Think of this deep dive as like a roadmap
That's a good way to put
to
it.
becoming a better leader.
Yeah, a roadmap to becoming the leader you aspire to be.
Exactly, and a better person.
You know what's so interesting to me is how many of these sources
hmm
emphasize that becoming a better leader really starts with you.
Yeah,
It's about working on yourself.
makes
It's
sense.
about cultivating your own character and your own integrity
hmm
before you can even really think about effectively leading others.
Yeah, one book, Becoming a Person of Influence,
Okay.
starts with this super powerful story about Andrew Carnegie.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if you know much about him, but he started working for 2 cents an hour
Wow.
and ended up giving away millions.
Amazing.
But the thing that really stuck with me was his commitment to integrity.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so Carnegie lived by this really simple rule.
Okay.
Don't do what you wouldn't feel comfortable reading about in the newspaper the next day.
That's powerful.
Oh, it really is. It makes you think twice
Yeah,
about those everyday decisions.
right. It's about holding yourself to a high standard,
Yeah,
even when nobody's watching.
exactly. It's about building that character in those small everyday choices, right?
Ah,
Not just the big dramatic events.
Exactly. The small choices, they really do add up.
Yeah.
They shape who we are as people
hmm
and ultimately as leaders.
And speaking of shaping who we are,
Yes.
several of these books suggest that problems are kind of inevitable,
Yeah.
but they can actually be opportunities for growth.
Yeah, like stepping stones.
There's that really compelling study from 1962
Okay.
called Cradles of Eminence.
Cradles of Eminence. Okay.
Have you heard of this one?
I have heard of that one.
They studied like hundreds of successful people.
Wow.
And it turns out almost all of them had faced some pretty significant obstacles.
Oh, wow.
But those obstacles didn't stop them. They
Right.
actually became like fuel for their success.
It's almost like the problems force them to think differently,
Yeah.
to be more innovative, to develop resilience.
John Maxwell, in Developing the Leader Within You, said,
Okay.
when you're through changing, you're through.
That's good.
So this idea of like embracing change
Yeah.
and seeing those problems as stepping stones
Mm-hmm.
really resonated across a lot of these different sources.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It reminds me of the Yellowtail wine case study from Blue Ocean Strategy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They like completely shook up the wine industry
Oh, wow. How
by
for
targeting non-customers.
non-customers. Okay.
So instead of focusing on people who already drank wine,
Mm-hmm.
they went after people who preferred like beer or cocktails
Oh, that's interesting.
and said, hey, we can make a wine for you.
I see. So it's about redefining the problem a little bit.
Yeah.
Seeing an opportunity to create a whole new market
Yeah.
by appealing to folks who weren't being served by that traditional industry.
And they weren't afraid to like challenge the status quo and really embrace change.
Yeah, it takes guts to go in a new direction like that.
Speaking of shaking things up, Developing the Leader Within You included this really thought-provoking quote
Oh, I love a good quote.
from Helen Keller.
Okay.
What would be worse than being born blind? To have sight without vision. It really makes you think about the importance of having a clear vision for your life and work.
Yeah. Without a vision, you're just drifting.
Right.
You need something to aim for, something to guide your decisions.
Exactly.
And, when it comes to guiding others, positive reinforcement is a big recurring theme in a lot of these books.
Bringing Out the Best in People really dives deep into this concept.
Oh, yeah. What does it say?
Emphasizes that positive reinforcement is way more effective than criticism. They say aim for at least a 4-to-1 ratio
Okay.
of positive to negative feedback.
So 4 positives for every negative.
Exactly.
I like that.
It's about catching people doing things, right?
Yeah.
And acknowledging those efforts.
Yeah.
It made me think about that story of Stevie Wonder
Okay.
and how his musical talent was ignited by a teacher's just simple act of appreciation.
Wow. So powerful.
Imagine the impact we could all have
Yeah.
if we just focused on recognizing and celebrating those strengths instead of dwelling on the weaknesses.
Yeah. I think we could change the world that way.
Totally. And Dale Carnegie in How to Win Friends and Influence People
Oh, class.
echoes that same sentiment.
Okay.
He says that criticizing people just kills their ambition, but recognizing their efforts fuels their desire to grow.
Yeah. It's about creating that positive
Yeah,
and encouraging environment where people feel valued and motivated.
exactly.
Recognizing accomplishments both in ourselves and others is so important.
Yeah.
But, it's also crucial to really develop our own unique strengths and build that personal brand.
And the circle of innovation really hits on that concept of brand you.
Brand you. Oh, I like that.
It's figuring out what makes you stand out,
Yeah.
your unique value proposition,
Mm-hmm.
and leveraging those
To
strengths.
make a real impact.
Exactly. And there's this brilliant quote in there
Oh, let's hear it.
from Jerry Garcia.
Okay.
He said, "You do not merely want to be considered just the best of the best. You want to be considered the only ones who do what you do."
Wow, so good.
It's powerful, right? It's
Yeah.
like you're not just another face in the crowd.
Right.
You're offering something distinct and valuable.
I love that.
And that kind of leads us to this topic of innovation,
Okay.
which seems to be a common threat in a lot of these books.
Yeah, it's interesting how that keeps coming up.
And Tom Peters in The Circle of Innovation points out that almost every product that has revolutionized the marketplace
Okay.
was initially rejected by customers,
Really?
sometimes for years
Wow.
or even decades.
That's wild. What causes that resistance?
I think it's fear of the unknown,
Yeah.
a reluctance to embrace something new.
Makes sense.
And dealing with Darwin breaks down the different types of innovation,
Okay.
like disruptive,
Mm-hmm.
product platform integration, and process.
So it's not just about inventing something totally new.
No.
It can also be about improving existing processes.
Right.
Or finding creative ways to integrate different things.
Exactly. So it's this multifaceted concept.
I see.
It's about constantly looking for ways to improve and evolve,
Yeah.
whether it's a product,
Right.
service, or even a way of thinking.
It really makes you wonder, what kind of innovator are you?
Yeah,
What opportunities for innovation exist in your own work?
that's a good question.
Yeah. And you know what else is fascinating?
What's that?
Along with embracing innovation, some of these books actually advocate for the art of quitting.
The art of quitting.
Yeah, it might sound counterintuitive,
Yeah, a little bit.
but quit, the power of knowing when to walk away, makes a compelling case.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So the book argues that quitting isn't always a failure.
Okay.
Sometimes it can actually be the smartest move you can make to achieve your goals.
Hmm.
And there's this really powerful case study about Muhammad Ali.
Oh, wow.
You know, his legendary grit made him a champion,
Mm-hmm.
but that same tenacity also contributed to his decline.
Oh, wow.
He kept fighting long after he should have quit,
Yeah.
and it took a toll on his health.
That's a powerful reminder that sometimes holding on too tightly can be really detrimental.
Yeah, it's about recognizing when it's time to let go
Yeah.
and move on to something that better aligns with your goals and values.
Exactly.
And quit also talks about this thing called the sunk cost fallacy,
Okay.
which is basically our tendency to stick with something just because we've already invested a lot in it,
Yeah.
even if it's no longer serving us well.
It's that feeling of, well, I've already come this far. I might as well see it through. Even when it's clear we should probably change course.
Yeah, it's a trap we can all fall into.
For sure.
But recognizing this fallacy can be so liberating because sometimes quitting is the bravest and most strategic decision we can make.
It's about prioritizing our well-being
Yes.
and making choices that empower us to move forward, even if it means leaving something behind.
Absolutely.
And speaking of moving forward, a lot of these sources emphasize the need to constantly develop our thinking skills.
Oh, for sure. Thinking for a Change really digs into that. It highlights how important it is to develop all these different thinking skills like big picture thinking,
Mm-hmm.
focused thinking,
Yeah.
creative thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and even questioning popular thinking.
Right. It's about challenging our own assumptions and seeking out new perspectives.
Absolutely. You know, we're all creatures of habit,
Yeah.
and our thinking patterns can get ingrained over time.
Totally. So it's essential to actively work on expanding our thinking
Yes.
and challenging our own biases.
What do you think, which of those thinking skills do you think you need to strengthen?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that's one we should all be asking ourselves. We
Yeah.
need to constantly evaluate our own thinking processes
Right.
and identify those areas where we can grow.
Yeah, and you know what else is key to becoming a better leader and influencer?
What's that?
Understanding the psychology of persuasion.
Ooh.
Influence, the psychology of why people say yes.
Oh, I love that book.
It explores this fascinating world.
It talks about principles like reciprocation,
Yeah.
where we feel obligated to return favors,
Mm-hmm.
and scarcity,
Right.
where we place a higher value on things that are limited or rare.
Like those limited edition products that sell out in nuts.
Exactly. The scarcity makes them seem even more desirable.
Yeah.
And influence explains how understanding these principles can help us influence others in a positive way.
It's not about manipulation.
No.
It's about understanding human behavior
Hmm.
and using that knowledge to create positive change.
It's about being aware of these subtle influences and using them ethically to motivate and inspire.
Exactly.
And, it's fascinating how all of these concepts connect.
Yeah.
We've got integrity as our foundation.
Right.
We're embracing problems as these growth opportunities.
Yeah.
Championing positive reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking critically about change and innovation.
Yeah.
even recognizing when to strategically quit.
It's all interconnected.
It really is. It's like we're weaving a tapestry of leadership,
That's a good way to put it.
using all these different threads
Mm-hmm.
to create this richer and more dynamic picture.
And we've only just begun to scratch the surface.
I know there's so much more to explore.
There is. Yeah. It's amazing how all these ideas build upon each other, you know?
Right?
We've talked about personal integrity and growth,
Mhm.
but how to win friends and influence people really dives into that practical side of leadership,
Okay.
emphasizing how important it is to connect with people.
Right?
And it shares this great story about Charles Schwab,
Okay.
who was one of the first business leaders to actually earn $1 million salary.
Wow, $1 million back then.
I know, right?
That's a lot of money.
And he attributed so much of his success to his ability to work with people effectively.
Interesting. So what was his secret?
Well, Schwab really believed in focusing on the good in people,
Okay.
praising their efforts and minimizing criticism.
Interesting.
He famously said, "I consider my ability to arouse enthusiasm among my people the greatest asset I possess."
Hmm.
He really understood that people respond so much better to encouragement than to negativity.
Yeah, it ties back to what we were saying earlier about positive reinforcement.
It does.
Instead of tearing people down, he lifted them up.
Exactly.
It makes you think about the kind of impact we can all have as leaders when we focus on inspiring others.
It really does. And it's not just about those grand gestures either.
Right.
Bringing out the best in people really emphasizes the power of immediate and frequent rewards.
Okay?
And it actually challenges that traditional approach of waiting for annual reviews to give feedback.
So what would you replace that with?
Well, the book suggests a performance matrix
Okay.
that sets these clear goals and then rewards everyone who reaches a certain level.
Interesting.
It creates this environment where everyone feels empowered to succeed
Right.
and they feel recognized for their contributions.
That's a really cool approach.
Yeah,
It shifts the focus from competition to collaboration
exactly.
and recognizes that success doesn't have to be a zero-sum game.
It doesn't. Everyone can win.
Everyone can win, and this idea of creating a win-win situation
Yes.
reminds me of another concept that kept popping up in these books,
Oh, what's that?
focusing on customer benefit.
Oh, yeah, customer benefit. That's huge.
The discipline of market leaders puts it so beautifully.
Ah, I love a good quote. Let's hear it.
Customer-intimate companies don't pursue transactions, they cultivate relationships.
That's a good one.
So it's about understanding your customers' needs and going above and beyond to meet them.
Yeah, building trust and creating those lasting connections.
It's not just about making a sale, it's about building loyalty
Right.
and creating a positive experience for the customer.
And Blue Ocean's strategy takes this concept even further,
Okay, tell me more.
suggesting that we actually think of our team members as customers as well.
Oh, like internal customers.
Exactly.
So,
It encourages leaders to ask themselves, what benefit am I providing my team? Am I helping them grow and learn and reach their full potential?
that's a really powerful shift in perspective.
It is.
Instead of viewing your team as subordinates,
Right.
you're seeing them as valued individuals that you're committed to serving
Yes.
and empowering.
It creates a much more collaborative and supportive environment.
It does, for sure.
And, it reminds me of something we touched on earlier, the importance of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know ourselves? Had some really incredible insights about this.
Oh, yeah. What did it say?
It talks about how our brains are constantly interpreting reality based on our past experiences and expectations,
Okay.
which can lead to biases.
Yeah, like the self-serving bias,
Oh, yeah, the self-serving bias.
where we tend to see ourselves in a more positive light.
Right, than others might.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we all think we're above average drivers, even though statistically that's impossible.
Exactly. It's a very human tendency.
Right.
But it's so important to be aware of these biases so that we can make more objective decisions
Yeah.
and avoid letting our egos kind of cloud our judgment.
The book also talks about the importance of humility, doesn't it?
It does. It emphasizes that true humility isn't about thinking less of yourself,
Okay.
but it's about thinking of yourself less.
Mm.
It's about being open to learning from others and recognizing that we don't have all the answers.
That reminds me of what Adam Grant talks about in Think Again.
Oh, yeah? What does he say?
He calls it confident humility,
Confident humility. Okay.
which is the ability to be secure in your strengths,
Okay.
while also being open to new information and willing to change your mind
Yeah.
when presented with a better approach.
It's a powerful combination.
It is.
You're confident, but you're not afraid to admit when you're wrong or to seek out different perspectives.
It's about being a lifelong learner,
Yes.
constantly seeking to expand your knowledge and understanding.
Speaking of learning the extended mind, had some really fascinating research on how we learn best.
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
It turns out we learn more effectively when we're moving,
Really?
when we're actively engaging our bodies as well as our minds.
So not just sitting at a desk all day.
Right, exactly. The book highlights the benefits of incorporating movement into our learning environments.
Okay.
It could be walking meetings, taking breaks to stretch and move around,
Mm,
or even just using a standing desk.
yeah, it makes sense when you think about it.
It does.
Movement increases blood flow,
Yeah.
stimulates brain activity,
It helps us stay more alert and engaged.
and the book also talks about the power of teaching others.
Oh,
It
interesting.
seems that the act of teaching actually helps solidify our own understanding of a concept.
That's a great point because by explaining something to someone else,
Yeah,
we have to organize our thoughts and articulate our ideas in a way that makes sense to them.
right.
And that process really helps us internalize the information more deeply.
So by sharing our knowledge, we're not only helping others learn, but we're also strengthening our own understanding.
Precisely. And This is Strategy by Seth Godin offers some brilliant insights on how to translate learning into action
Okay,
and make a real impact in the world.
I'm all here. Tell me more.
He emphasizes how important it is to understand the systems that we're operating within.
Okay.
And he recognizes that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Meaning that even the best laid plans can fail if they don't align with the existing culture.
Exactly. He also encourages us to think about strategy as a narrative,
Okay.
a story that we're telling about how we're going to create change.
So it's not just about having a plan, it's about creating this compelling vision
Yes.
and then taking concrete steps to bring that vision to life.
And he also talks about the importance of making those critical connections. It's not about reaching the masses.
Okay.
It's about finding the right people,
Right.
the influencers who can help spread your ideas and create that ripple effect.
It's not just what you know, it's who you know and how effectively you can connect with those people.
It's a combination of both. You need the knowledge and the skills, but you also need those connections to amplify your impact.
Right. And that leads us to another really crucial aspect of effective leadership.
What's that?
Streamlining processes and reducing friction.
Oh, yes, the Friction Project talks all about that.
It highlights how unnecessary complexity and bureaucracy can just hinder progress
Yes.
and stifle innovation.
It's about simplifying systems,
Yeah.
eliminating those unnecessary steps,
Mm-hmm.
and empowering people to do their best work.
It's about creating an environment where people feel supported and empowered to take action,
Yes.
rather than being bogged down by red tape.
And the book also emphasizes recognizing and rewarding people who actually prevent problems,
Oh, interesting.
not just those who put out fires.
Yeah, because those who prevent the problems are often the unsung heroes,
They are.
working behind the scenes to make sure things run smoothly.
Right. Without them, we'd be in a constant state of crisis management.
Exactly. It's about shifting the focus from reactive to proactive problem solving.
Precisely. But even with the best intentions, we all make mistakes.
That's true.
And Why Smart Executives Fail really takes a hard look at the reasons why even the most brilliant leaders can stumble.
It's a humbling thought. What are some of those common pitfalls that lead to those failures?
Well, the book talks about how success can sometimes lead to arrogance
Okay.
and a disconnect from reality.
So it's like that old saying, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Exactly. It's easy to lose touch with the ground level when you're at the top. The book highlights how important it is to stay grounded,
Mm-hmm.
to seek out diverse perspectives, and to be willing to admit when we're wrong.
Humility and self-awareness are so essential, even at the highest levels of leadership.
Absolutely. And the book also emphasizes the importance of communication.
Okay.
It stresses the need for clear and open communication channels
Right.
so that vital information can reach the people who need to act on it.
Why Smart Executives Fail suggests that companies should regularly assess their organizational structure
Okay.
to make sure it's not too convoluted or complex.
Right, because when things get too complicated, information can get lost in the shuffle.
Exactly. It's a reminder that simplicity and clarity are essential
They are.
for effective leadership and communication.
We need to make sure that information flows smoothly and everyone's on the same page.
Now, the 48 Laws of Power offers a more, let's say, unconventional perspective
Okay.
on leadership and influence.
Interesting.
It's a bit controversial, but it does provide some interesting insights into the dynamics of power.
Like what?
Well, for example, it talks about the importance of mastering your emotions
Okay.
and using them strategically.
So not letting your emotions control you, but rather using them to your advantage.
Exactly. It's about channeling your emotions in a way that serves your goals
Mm-hmm.
and helps you connect with others.
Interesting perspective. It's not about suppressing emotions, but about using them intelligently.
Right, and the 48 Laws of Power also highlights the importance of building a strong reputation
Okay.
and cultivating a sense of mystery.
So not revealing too much about yourself, keeping people guessing.
Precisely, it's about creating an aura of intrigue
Okay.
and making people want to know more.
I like that.
So we've covered a lot of ground
We
here,
have.
from the practical aspects of connecting with people
Right.
to the more strategic elements of building a personal brand,
Mm-hmm.
fostering innovation,
Yeah.
and even navigating the complexities of power dynamics.
It's a lot to think about.
It is, and one theme that continues to emerge is the importance of self-awareness,
Yes.
understanding your strengths and weaknesses,
Right.
and constantly striving to learn and grow as a leader.
It's about recognizing that leadership is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
It's about constantly evolving, adapting, and challenging yourself to become the best leader you can be.
And speaking of journeys, your roadmap for success had some great insights on defining what success really means.
Oh, yeah? What does it say?
It argues that success isn't just about wealth or achievement,
Okay.
but about living a life of purpose and making a positive impact on the world.
I like that.
And there's this really powerful line in the book.
Okay, what is it?
Success equals being loved and respected by those closest to you.
That's a good one.
It's a beautiful reminder that at the end of the day, the most important things are the relationships we build
Yes.
and the legacy we leave behind.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another point that several of these sources touched on,
Okay?
the power of relationships
Mm-hmm.
and the importance of helping others succeed.
Yeah, First Break All the Rules really emphasize that.
What does it say?
It highlights the importance of hiring for talent
Okay.
and then focusing on developing that talent,
Right.
helping people become the best versions of themselves.
There's a great line in that book. The challenge is not to perfect people, but to capitalize on each person's uniqueness.
I love that.
It's about recognizing and celebrating the strengths of each individual
Yeah,
and then creating an environment where those strengths can flourish.
it's about empowering people to reach their full potential,
Yes.
not trying to fit them into some predefined mold.
And the cycle of leadership echoes that sentiment.
Okay.
It emphasizes that great leaders are teachers. They invest in their team members. They mentor them. They help them grow.
It's about paying it forward, sharing your knowledge and experience to help others develop their leadership skills.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of succession planning, of creating a pipeline of future leaders
Right.
who can carry on the legacy of your organization.
It's about thinking long-term, not just about immediate results.
Yes.
It's about building a sustainable future for the organization by investing in the development of future leaders.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that the true measure of a leader is not just their own success,
Right.
but the success of those they lead.
It's about creating a ripple effect, empowering others to become leaders themselves,
Yes.
and continue that cycle of growth and development.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
It is.
To think about the impact we can have when we focus on empowering others and helping them reach their full potential.
Yeah, it really is inspiring to think about that impact.
Yeah.
But, all this talk about success and leadership
Mm-hmm.
makes me wonder about the role our own minds play in all of this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Useful Delusions had some fascinating insights into how our minds actually work.
Okay.
It argues that self-deception can actually be beneficial sometimes.
Self-deception beneficial?
I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive,
It does.
but the book makes a really compelling case.
Okay, how so?
It suggests that our brains often distort reality
Mm-hmm.
to help us cope with difficult situations or maintain social harmony.
I see.
So like those little white lies that we tell to avoid hurting someone's feelings.
Oh, yeah. Like that dress looks great on you.
Exactly. And Useful Delusions also explores how rituals,
Okay.
even seemingly meaningless ones, can actually serve a purpose
Interesting.
by reducing anxiety and fostering a sense of belonging.
Oh, that's cool. Like what?
It's like those team-building exercises that we all secretly dread,
Right.
but end up bonding over.
Yeah, exactly. They create that shared experience and strengthen our connections, even if the activity itself seems a little silly.
Exactly. And the book also talks about the power of stories
Oh, yeah.
and how our brains are wired for narrative
Mm-hmm.
and how we're more likely to remember information when it's presented as a story.
That's a really powerful insight for leaders, you know?
Right.
If you want to inspire people, you need to tell a good story.
Yeah.
You need to create a narrative that really connects with their emotions and motivates them to take action.
It's about going beyond just dry facts and figures
Right.
and tapping into the power of storytelling to connect with people on a deeper level.
Absolutely.
And speaking of taking action, Get It Done. Surprising Lessons from the Science of Motivation had some really interesting research on how to stay motivated and achieve our goals.
Oh, yeah. I've heard good things about that book.
Yeah, it highlights the importance of focusing on progress,
Okay.
not just outcomes.
Oh, interesting. So, like, celebrating those small wins along the way.
Exactly. Recognizing and acknowledging those small victories can help us stay motivated and
Mm,
build momentum toward that larger goal.
makes sense. And the book also talks about the power of social influence, right? Like how we're more likely to work harder when we know somebody's watching.
Exactly. It's called social facilitation.
Social facilitation. Okay.
Having those accountability
Yeah.
partners, or even just a visual reminder of someone we admire, can really boost our motivation.
It's like having a cheerleader in your corner encouraging you to keep going.
I like that. And then there's How to Change, which dives into practical strategies for breaking bad habits and forming new ones.
Oh, that's a good one. What does it say?
That book offers some great advice. It talks about piggybacking new habits onto old ones
Okay.
to make it easier to remember and stick with that new behavior.
Oh, that's a good idea. Like what?
So like if you want to start flossing regularly,
Okay.
you would link it to an existing habit like brushing your teeth.
Oh, I see.
You're already doing that every day. So you
Yeah.
just add the flossing right on top of it.
So you're more likely to remember.
Exactly. It's about creating that seamless integration that becomes part of your routine.
Makes sense.
And How to Change also highlights the importance of making rewards immediate and frequent,
Okay.
rather than waiting for some far-off goal
Right.
to celebrate your successes.
So finding those little rewards that keep them motivated along the way.
I like that it ties into that idea of celebrating progress, not just the final outcome.
It does, and it reminds me of something else that's really crucial for growth.
What's that?
Being willing to challenge our own assumptions and seek out diverse perspectives.
Yeah, Think Again really dives into that.
It does.
It highlights the dangers of confirmation bias,
Right.
which is our tendency to seek out information that just confirms our existing beliefs.
It's a trap we all fall into.
Yeah,
Especially when we're surrounded by people who agree with us.
right.
But to really grow as leaders and as individuals, we need to actively seek out those dissenting opinions and be open to the possibility we might be wrong.
It's about having the humility to recognize that we don't have all the answers
Yes.
and that there's always more to learn.
And that ties into the idea of having a growth mindset,
Right.
believing that our abilities can be developed through hard work and dedication.
It's about seeing challenges as opportunities for learning and growth,
Yeah.
rather than obstacles to overcome.
And speaking of challenges, the Three Tensions argues that successful companies are those that can effectively manage three key tensions:
Okay, what are they?
profitability versus growth,
Okay.
short-term versus long-term, and whole versus parts.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between those competing priorities.
Exactly. The book emphasizes that customer benefit is the common thread that ties profitability and growth together.
Okay.
It's about creating value for your customers, not just focusing on your own bottom line.
So it all comes back to serving others, whether it's your customers, your team, or even yourself, through personal growth.
It's all connected. It's a holistic approach to leadership,
Yeah.
one that considers the needs of all stakeholders and seeks to create a positive impact on the world.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the power of integrity and the importance of embracing change,
Right.
to the psychology of motivation and the art of strategic quitting. It's been a whirlwind of insights and inspiration.
And amidst all these diverse ideas, one overarching theme really emerges:
What's that?
the power of continuous learning, self-reflection, and a commitment to personal growth.
It's about recognizing that leadership isn't about achieving a specific title or position,
Right.
but it's about embodying certain qualities and values
Yes.
that inspire others.
It's about being a lifelong learner,
Mm-hmm.
always striving to become a better version of yourself.
Exactly. And for you listening, this raises a final thought.
Okay.
If you could design your ideal leadership legacy, what would it be? What impact do you want to have on the world and the people around you?
That's a good question.
It is a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, remember,
Okay.
leadership is a journey, not a destination.
I like that.
Keep learning, keep seeing, and keep striving to become the leader you are meant to be.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those aha moments coming.